welcome back to the More YouTube channel. It's Chris back with my rant stroke thought of the day. And I'm getting sick of talking about this really, but it has to be spoken about because it's out there in the world, in the media, maybe because it's an international break. I don't know why, but Alexander Isak is back on the news agenda for Newcastle United. If you hadn't seen already, he was asked in the Swedish press conference about, now the dust has settled a little bit, can you talk about your departure from Newcastle United? And he just basically said, I don't think it's going to do me or Newcastle any good to talk about that at this particular moment. And then the reporter then said, have you spoken to Eddie Howe? And he just gave one of these, no. One of those kind of looks, really. You know, I don't know what that look was. I don't know whether it was a look of regret or whether it was a look of disdain or whatever it may be. But, you know, all I do know is Alexander Isak hasn't just been shite for Liverpool. He's also been shite for Sweden as well, because in that game that followed, he missed from about 1 yard. I think it was against Israel, was it? Or something like that. I don't know who it was. Now, I'm just looking at it now. I don't know who did he miss against. I'm going to have to look at it now. Who was Isak miss against? My God. Was it Israel? Who was it? Isak missed Switzerland. It was. I'm saying Israel. No, I think it was Erling Haaland. They got battered, didn't they, off Israel. Switzerland, he missed from about 1 fucking yard. I think it was. As Mark's probably pulled up the picture for you there in the background. And you can clearly see it's not Israel. It's Switzerland. Maybe I'm thinking about the news too much. But so he's had a stinker. He's been rubbish for Sweden, as he's been rubbish for Liverpool as well. But the whole Newcastle thing keeps getting spoken about. Now, we've heard a lot from people about Alexander Isak, and some of it we really want to hear about, you know, because something's gone wrong behind the scenes. Everyone's had that chance to talk about it, you know. Gary Neville spoke about it. Carragher spoke about it. Shearer spoke about it. Lineker spoke about it. Eddie Howe spoke a little bit about it. Isak spoke a little bit about it. All these people in football whose opinions that really matter have spoken about it. But there's one person's opinion that matters above all those people. One person's opinion that you really need to know. Before you go to bed tonight, you need to know, what does Jeff Hendrick think about Alexander Isak's departure from Newcastle? No, I'm not shitting you. Jeff Hendrick, by the way, who played for Newcastle for 4 years during the peak Ashley era, where we were signing absolute horse shit players. So we signed Jeff Hendrick on a free transfer, which I think is still too much money, from Burnley in 2020. He was at Newcastle for 4 years, 25 appearances and 3 goals. And he went on loan, I think, during that time to Reading. He went on loan to Sheffield Wednesday. And he eventually finished at Derby County in 2025, where he had no appearances. And he retired at the age of 33 due to family reasons, because he couldn't find a club. Also because he was shite as well. But Jeff Hendrick, the Newcastle legend, that's what will happen. He'll get a job as a pundit on some American sports network, you know, Fox Sports or NBC or something like that, you know, and they'll be like, former Newcastle midfielder Jeff Hendrick, what do you think about Newcastle's performance? And he'll be like, oh, well, you know, I was in Newcastle. Yeah, he's shite, right? But this is what Jeff Hendrick had to say. So buckle in, right? He said, if his situation was a year earlier, I'd have crossed paths with him in the bomb squad. Ooh, sour grapes there, Jeff. So that's what they call people when obviously you've been loafed down the road from Newcastle United, which is exactly what happened with Jeff Hendrick. He was bombed down the road and he was in the bomb squad. He said, I was probably more surprised how long it drew up publicly. 2 months before they broke up in the summer, there was talk of stuff being guaranteed behind closed doors. It must have been the case for him to push it that much. I think it was always going to happen, even a month out. It was inevitable, says Jeff Hendrick. There couldn't be a U-turn. The fans weren't happy. Then it was more Newcastle dragging it out, waiting to line up the player they wanted. I wouldn't have been surprised if there was a little bit of tactics involved. Let's send him to Liverpool not fit. Very calculating there, Jeff Hendrick. He won't have had a proper pre-season. They're going to have to get him fit. They've got the backlog of games, because if you look at it, he's obviously played a couple of games, but he's not an Alexander Isak of 120 million. So it's probably clever from them, is what he says. I'm not really sure about sabotaging the start of our season as being clever, Jeff Hendrick. And there's some stuff he says there a little bit concerning. So behind the scenes of this whole scenario with Alexander Isak debacle, what Jeff Hendrick's saying there, he obviously has friends still within the corridors of the club or whatever who know things. So he's saying a couple of things there that maybe we didn't want to be true, but maybe are true, that this whole thing with Isak wanting to leave was maybe discussed a lot sooner than it allowed to become. And maybe there is failings from the club there in terms of how they handled it, how they had it dealt with in the background, how they didn't have the players lined up, how they didn't move quick to get the replacement in, all that kind of stuff. there may be a little bit of truth in that. Maybe we'll never know what happened with the Alexander Isak situation until he's probably retired and he's writing an autobiography or some shit like that. Or maybe Newcastle just turn around and decide to say it. But so that made me laugh. Jeff Hendrick giving his opinion on Alexander Isak. I mean, fucking hell, Alexander Isak scored more goals like in a week than Jeff Hendrick had his entire Newcastle United career. But it's so funny when you have a scenario like this and all these ex-pros want to come out and say their piece about it. I mean, Jeff Hendrick playing for Newcastle is a stretch, really. You know, he didn't really do nothing for us. I think he was injured most of the time and shit the rest of the time, really. But Jeff Hendrick is either going to end up behind one of the microphones in an American Sports Network TV, or there'll be a chair at TalkSport waiting for him on that conveyor belt of retired professionals. But like I say, some of the stuff we spoke about maybe just lifted a little bit on how things went so badly wrong behind the scenes with the Alexander Isak departure. But one thing's for sure, it's definitely caused a rift between Eddie Howe and Alexander Isak and Newcastle and Alexander Isak. We don't like Alexander Isak. Most of us don't like him. I think he's not very fondly thought of by Newcastle United fans. He won't be welcome back in years to come. Unlike players like Andy Cole, who left and went to Manchester United, was very respectful when he went. Go back and look at his interview. You know, he said he didn't want to leave Newcastle. He loved Newcastle. He loved the fans. He then went on and won everything with Manchester United and barely gives Newcastle that much credence until the later years of his retirement, you know, when he does start talking about Newcastle again. But he left on good terms. You know, Ferguson leaving and going to Everton, Michael Owen leaving and going to Man United is kind of in a similar ilk to Alexander Isak, but Owen was quite hated by a lot of Newcastle fans anyway. Isak was loved, he was adored, he was, you know, worshipped by Newcastle fans, and he spat in the face and he did that to them, every single one of them, and to Eddie Howe and the players as well. I'm going to be really interested to see when we go to Anfield at the end of January and play this lot, if Isak is playing, if he's back to full strength, because let's face it, he will be soon enough. He's looking ropey now. His touch is shit. His movement's not great. He's blowing after 15 minutes. He did have times like that at Newcastle United as well, by the way. We all remember that. But Isak will get sharp. He will get fitter. When he clicks in the gear, he will smash in goals for Liverpool. So I'm not one of these people who subscribe to going on social medias and giving him too much shit. I don't want to hold back at me, full pelt in my face when he starts to play better again. But I'm enjoying him being shit for the moment. I didn't want to talk about Isak again, but it is in the news. It is international break. It is a bit shit and a bit flat in terms of news at the moment. So I thought I'd just jump on and talk about it because it made me laugh. All people to talk about Alexander Isak. The mighty Jeff Hendrick saying his piece. Fuck me. We have reached a new low in football commentary, that is for sure. But let us know in the comments below what you think about the shit with Isak getting interviewed for Sweden, about Newcastle. Do you give a fuck? Do you think bollocks to it? Leave it. We've got Big Nick Baltimore. I did put a post out actually on our X account, which I find myself wanting to withdraw even more and more from in the months to come because it's just shit in it really. But I put it on there and I actually said, don't want to talk about Isak anymore. I want to focus on Big Nick, focus on the present, not the past. And a lot of Liverpool fans said, "Oh, that's great, that's great, that's great." That's what we all should do. And then the Scousers start coming up. "Oh, bro's acting like he's Zlatan after 3 games, bro. He's got the same goals as Chiesa, bro." They always say "bro," these fucking Scousers, don't they? Because they're about 13 years old and live in America or Bangladesh or Africa or some shit like that. And that's how 13-year-olds generally talk. I've got teenagers myself. I know how much they use the word bro. But that's the kind of bollocks you get on social media when you talk about Alexander Isak. But it's very interesting that that's still in the background. Nobody quite knows about it. The press are obviously still got an interest in it, Swedish press and UK press. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below about Isak's reaction, about Jeff Hendrick's wise words about Newcastle. And do you think we were clever or do you think we were fucking stupid to do what we did with Alexander Isak? Always like to hear from you. Smash a like and subscribe. Keep it ever more. Come back for some more content this week. We've got the Brighton preview coming up. I'll be back behind the mic for the live post-match reaction to the Brighton game. I'm really, really concerned about this game, to be honest with you, especially Yankuba Minter against Stanburn. But more of that as the week goes on. Have a belt, everyone. See you later.
Win. those heroes celebrate. They have done it.